Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for finding my YouTube channel. My name is Al. Welcome to Kindred Souls of Brooklyn. And today, folks, we're going to talk about an iconic Brooklyn supermarket called Bohack that disappeared back in 1977. So stay tuned for a really cool talk on the amazing supermarket that lasted from 1897 all the way to 1977, one you probably remember really well. Let's take a trip down memory lane. First off, folks, if you don't remember why or when Bohack closed, I could certainly understand that, because 1977, in my opinion, as a person living in Brooklyn, was probably one of the craziest times or craziest years ever living in Brooklyn. I mean, first off, think about all the wild events that happened in the summer of 1977. First off, you had Elvis Presley's death. Even though it wasn't in Brooklyn, it still impacted the world.
See here, I'm with the man here. Yeah. Neighbor.
We had the infamous blackout in the summer of 1977. Finally, it was the summer of the infamous Son of Sam, or the 44 caliber killer as he was known, who was finally caught in the summer of 1977, and he ended up getting 6 life sentences for his crimes. As I stand here in Publix in Celebration, Florida, I can't help to think what a success story Bohack's really was, because H.C. Bohack, which stood for Henry Christian Bohack, actually came over to America from Germany, and he came over in 1865, and at 17 years old, he turned around and he got a job in a grocery store in Brooklyn, and a few years after that, he ended up opening up his own place. In 1897, Bohack's was born. He opened it up on Fulton Street, and it was just an incredible success, and he just kept growing the business as time went on. And I mean, he became a founder, and he became something that was to be looked up to, because at the time of his death in 1931, now you're talking 1931, he was worth like $40 million. I mean, that's what his chains was worth. And they had over 700 stores at that point. So you can imagine, I mean, he had a personal wealth of $10 million, but the wealth of all his combined stores, which was over 700 when he added up all the ones that were in Brooklyn and Suffolk and Nassau County and Queens. In fact, he had his warehouse over in Queens, and it was just incredible. So when he died in 1931, he died of a heart attack at 66 years old. He died, and the family actually took it over, and they ran it up until 1965. And in 1965, they decided to take the company public. And at that particular point, most of the family members were out of it, but the guy who took it over was actually a big mogul. He was a guy who owned a record company. He owned part of Paramount Movies. So he took it over as a predominant shareholder. And what's funny is that if you guys remember the Odd Couple movie from 1968, the original one with Walter Matthau and Lemon, scene in it where Felix goes shopping Keyfood. He goes shopping in Bohack. And where does he go shopping? It's 2nd Avenue and 87th Street in Manhattan. It's Upper Manhattan. I believe it's a Medfood supermarket right now, but it was actually shown in the movie because the guy who owned Paramount, also owned Keyfood. Oh, keep saying Keyfood. The guy who owned Paramount also owned Bohack. And I guess the reason I keep saying Keyfood is because I grew up on Prospect Avenue between 10th and 11th Avenue, and we had a Bohack store, of course, right down the block on the corner of 11th Avenue. And of course it became a Keyfood after that. So I remember my dad for years and years and years always saying, even when it was like 10 years later, he'd still say he was going to Bohack because it was just such a fixture in the community. And the people who worked there were really nice too. On Prospect Avenue where that Bohack's was located, we used to always have block parties like twice a year. And the managers were always really nice in that store. In fact, my mom would run the block parties, and she would always go around and ask for volunteers, or, there was one guy who worked for Sabret Hot Dogs. He would supply the hot dogs. So Bohack's was always cool. They always supplied the drinks. A lot of times they would supply the Pepsis or the Cokes, and they would always donate something to the cause. And the only thing that they asked us was, we shut off the block, because it was at the end of the block, and they were so busy on a Saturday, which is usually when we did the block party, they would just ask that up until the time they closed, which of course, you're going back to the 70s, things weren't open 24 hours back then. They used to close, I think it was like 7 o'clock at night. So they would just ask us just to keep the street open, to put like the cars that block the street off of, they put it right beyond Keyfood. So that was basically 3/4 of the block, so it wasn't so bad. But they were always really cool at that Bohack, and of course we appreciated that. The thing that actually did Bohack in was, of course, rapid expansion. when the original family, when they sold it, the people that took over, you got to remember the 70s, America was going through a recession, and Bohack was probably one of the only places that was super aggressive during that time, when they just kept buying things, kept opening up stores, and eventually it just caught up with them. And finally in 1974, they actually filed for Chapter 11. Now for me, I was born in 1965, so I kind of I really don't remember Bohack in its heyday. When I think of Bohack, I more remember it when it was kind of on the decline. In fact, I was actually surprised when I researched for this video how strong Bohack was in terms of it being a retailer and a tremendous force, because I remember it kind of being a little on the opposite end. It was never dirty, but I just kind of remember it, not being as exceptional as what I was reading and what I saw, when I was researching it. But what I wanted to say about Bohack, which was kind of amazing to me, was that they had a lot of products. I mean, they were one of the places which they had their own products. They didn't really rely just on the major products like Coke and Tropicana and things like that. And I remember they had one of the things they had great rye bread. I'll throw a couple of pictures of these things up here. Was rye bread, and they had the fruit cakes. They also had, believe it or not, they had their own beer, which leads me to a really, really funny story. I'll show you a picture of the beer can too. Far from an expert on beer, but they say beer lasts long in cans. I don't know, but my father grew up during a depression, and my father didn't throw really anything away, so we weren't a beer drinking family. So I think we had a party one year for New Year's, or my birthday's December 24th. It might have been for my birthday, I don't know, but I guess it was in the late 70s, and my mom or my dad must have bought some beer from Bohack, and the beer I think was like 79 cents for like 6 of them. It wasn't expensive, but apparently the beer was really good. So what was funny about it was that my dad had the beer downstairs. We had this old refrigerator downstairs, like a lot of people in Brooklyn do, and they just keep all the extra stuff in the refrigerator. Well, that beer had to be down there for at least 3 years. And one day this guy came over to the house and he fixed something. He was a plumber or something like that. And my father was like, "Oh yeah, you want something to drink?" He goes, "Yeah, I could go for a beer." And my father pulls out the beer from the refrigerator, and it had to be like 1980. And the guy drinks the beer and he's like, "Wow, this is really good." I can't believe this. I thought Bohack went out of business. So my father goes, "I don't know, maybe, I guess their product's still stuck around." The guy goes, "Yeah, I guess so." He says, "You have another one?" So the guy drank 2 of these Bohack beers, and I was sitting there like dying laughing, because I knew the place was shut for like 3 years, and the guy downed 2 of these Bohack beers. It was unbelievable. I don't remember because I was young. Perhaps you guys remember, but apparently the Bohack's meat was really, really good. And I found actually an old radio commercial speaking about Bohack's meat. It was an advertisement, so I'm going to play that for you right now to a picture of some old Bohack photos. So I hope you enjoy that, so stay tuned for that little commercial.
Bohack buys only U.S. government-graded choice beef, and with its exclusive tender-ray method, Bohack brings out all the natural tenderness of this fresh choice beef. All the true beef flavor and the natural juices are retained. Nothing is added, and of course, when you buy tender-ray beef at Bohack, you can be sure it's in perfect shape. Refrigerated trucks have rushed it to our markets, and expert, courteous butchers handle it with loving care. So for truly gourmet beef, for the freshest, tenderest, juiciest beef, get tender-ray beef at Bohack, where better meals begin.
Right. Really, folks, the best thing what I could say about Bohack is that for as many Bohacks as they really are, it seems that no matter what neighborhood they were in, they all seem to accomplish the same thing, and which leads me to think that the founder of Bohack had these intrinsic values of family and stability and community, because that's what it seems to be, that no matter who you speak to, whether it's people from Queens or people from Brooklyn or people from Long Island, people seem to all feel the same way about Bohack, like a lot of these famous places that have gone away now. And what that really comes down to is that there were just places where people usually had their first job. There were some people who made a career at working in Bohack, but a lot of times it was people's first job. It was a place where you could walk in and you kind of knew the guy who sliced the meat behind the counter, and he knew that you wanted the ham sliced thin or the bologna sliced thick. It was also kind of a safe haven where, a lot of times, kids would go in if they felt threatened or whatever. They could go in there and kind of hang out and, kind of like it's kind of like a safe stability in an area. And And I just think a lot of people have memories that are tied to these places. Like, you might have gone there for your Cub Scout meetings and bought food beforehand, or, for the barbecues that you had or the parties that you had. I know for me, one of my big memories of going to Bohack was that I used to always go with my dad on Thursday nights. And my favorite show of all time, especially back then, was Welcome Back Kotter. And Welcome Back Kotter was on Channel 7 at 8 o'clock at night. So Bohack, I think that was the one night a week that it was open late. And I used to always ask my dad, I want to go early because I want to come back and see Welcome Back Kotter. And, so you remember those kind of things and you take them with you. So I guess I'm going to give a big shout out to the people who worked at Bohack and so many of the other places, throughout history. My family and I had a store for 25 years. It was a Hallmark Gold Crown store on 236 Prospect Park West. And kind of the same thing. I mean, we had it for 25 years, and that's what I miss the most about it, is all the people who came in, all the stories that came about from it. It was a business, it was how we made a living, but more than that, it was a place of community. And that's what these places represented. And hopefully this kind of stuff will continue as time goes forward with new places. Honestly, folks, I want to thank you for watching. If you liked the video, if you didn't like the video, hopefully give me a shout, give me a like. Folks, I want to thank you for watching, because just by you watching, you're helping our foundation. It's a suicide prevention foundation that we just started. It's called the Waffles Foundation. My wife and I lost my son in 2019 to suicide, and he was a musician. And the foundation, our mission is to give out musical instruments to kids who can't afford them. And you can look us up. We're a registered foundation, a registered non-for-profit. So you can visit us at www.wafflesfoundation.org for more information. So please, thank you folks for watching, and I'll see you real soon on the next video. This is Al signing off. Take care now, folks. Bye-bye.
Thank you.